Hi everyone, welcome to SASS Mass. It's June 23rd. Um, yes, so we are going to get started with SASS Mass. I'm going to post the terms of engagement in the chat. It's a small group today, so we usually stay muted for clarity of the recording, but with a smaller group, it's a little bit easier. So feel free to use the raise hand or just kind of chime in. If a bunch of people end up joining us, then we can be more official about it. So that said, I'll post the terms in the chat. And so SASS Mass is a space where it's not planned. We show up every Sunday just to chit chat, have some witch chat about anything really. So here we are. Welcome. Happy solstice. And we're just past the full moon. So it's been a lot going on. Anyone have something on their mind they want to start with? It always takes like a few minutes to kind of get going. That's okay. Did anyone do anything for the solstice or for the full moon? Stephanie?
I actually just went to there's a local psychic who I just met a few weeks ago when I went to get a reading, and it was an instant connection. Like she's fantastic. And she is trained in the Lori Cabot tradition. So she had a Litha thing at her center today at like noon. And there were maybe like, I think there were like 13 of us or some awesome number like that. But and it was, the typical ritual really that you would think of, calling in the directions and so on and setting the intentions. And it was beautiful. And there was a little more, what's the word? A little more structured than I'm used to. So it was different, but it was still very interesting. And I'm grateful to have somebody like in the community that's kind of like trying to get some things going locally. But yeah, so I went to that today, and that was fun. It was a nice thing to do. We had good tea and cookies and flowers, but that's what I did. So
So if anyone doesn't know, Lori Cabot's like a famous witch from Salem. And she is still like around, but kind of definitely like I don't think she's like, I don't know if she would say she's retired, but she's definitely still around, but she used to be like the witch in Salem for a time. And so Lori must have like a school, or
yeah,
was
because
it?
she said that she's a second level or whatever, and the woman here is the one who does the weekly astrology readings or layouts on the Cabot website, I guess.
Oh,
She's
cool.
yeah, pretty intensive into the astrology piece. So yeah, I think she said she does that write up for it every week.
Nice. That's so fun. So, yeah. So how did you feel with it being like a little bit more, you said what more structured?
I I learned that I'm in the right place here in Brighton. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like if I questioned that I would want to be trained in a particular tradition, the answer is no for me. Like right now, I really like this way that we learn how to create it for ourselves. And so I think it has deeper meaning because of that. I don't know, it felt a little like, what does Jim Marie say? Like just connecting the dots or whatever, like just it felt a little just like by rote, this is what we're supposed to do, so this is what we're doing it. And maybe that's
Yeah.
because I haven't spent the time in that tradition to understand every piece of what it is. I don't know, it was hard to connect to for me to have it that structured. Um, I mean, it was nice. I like it. I'll go again. I'll learn more, you know, but it was definitely different.
Is it Wiccan? Is Lori a practice from the Wiccan tradition? I don't remember
I
if she
don't
does.
I don't know, but it's definitely got a lot of that influence to
Hmm.
it. I don't know if she would say that she is, but I mean, like a lot of things that people don't even realize are Wicca based. But they use a lot of the phrases, that are Wicca based and stuff like that. So there's definitely, if she doesn't identify with it completely, there are a lot of influences for sure.
I'm just Googling her as where I've heard like clips of her talking and things like that. And there was a couple things where I like heard her and some of her perspectives I definitely like, aligned with and things like that. Um, and yeah, I think when we were in Salem, Stephanie, did her shop, I think, or the shop that's run, it's like in the Enchanted one. I don't know if you popped in.
Yes,
It was,
I know which one you're talking about, and I love that shop.
yeah, it was a nice shop.
And
Um,
she has a lot of people that I've read books by that have been trained by her, and like this woman that I'm getting to know have been trained by her, and I definitely enjoy and connect with people who have been trained by her. So
mhm. Yeah, I was looking the interview. It's Jeff on YouTube. It's Jeff Bellinger. I think he did the interview with her, and there were like clips of that. It's only 27 minutes. I've only seen kind of like clips of it, and there's like things that she talks about. Oh, she's 91 years old.
wow.
Wow, good for her. Yeah, I just going on looking to see what the tradition is. Renee.
Um, so I just wanted to, I don't know, Stephanie somehow inspired me to talk about this, about when I was like reviewing traditions, and they didn't align with me. And I'm gonna go hard on this, so if anybody doesn't like it, just say something. But anytime I ran across ritual sex and that you had to be screwed by a high priest as part of the initiation, I was like, oh my gosh, it's the opposite of consent, right? And like they tried to make excuses like, oh, it doesn't really mean anything. It's part of the ritual, blah, 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 which to me, yuck, 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 yuck. So that's one of my kind of criteria when I look at a practice. If they like have any kind of weird domination or like ritual sex, I'm like, nope, yucky, yucky, yucky. Sorry, I always bring up the yucky stuff, but yes, that's just something that I feel really, really strongly about. So I'm gonna mute myself. The Towie.
I was trying to unmute. Sorry. Yeah. So I was raised Wicca. Well, the first half of my life was Catholicism, and it was pushed really hard, and I was sort of shoved out for asking too many questions and wanting to be an equal. And then around 13 or 14, I went to my dad's coven, and she had an experience like that in the 60s where they were doing the great rite, like physically on the altar, and they were asking her to take part in it, even though she was not comfortable with that. So she actually went Dianic, and it was very feminist and very kind of forward thinking. But so that's the craft, the Wicca that I grew up in was the Dianic. But I have seen a lot of the elders that I've met within my community did kind of come up against some of those other traditions where they were doing things like that, and it was horrifying.
Yeah, it's just, it just to me smacks of like someone, I think Stephanie just said hashtag not a cult, but it just, to me, that smacks of like such cultiness, because
Yeah.
then it's just like every other dirty old man that just wants to have sex with underage girls, to me.
Right.
So, yeah, like I said, I have strong feelings about that. And I was just reading this really interesting book, and it gets into some really like dark stuff, but it's called Witches in America. It's a recent book, but they talk about the fairy tradition, which is FERI, which seems to be very trendy and like everywhere right now. I keep seeing it popping up, but that's one of their major things in their practice too. And which I, like I said, to me, it's an automatic turn off. It just makes me not interested in any part of it.
Me
But
too. Yeah.
yeah, but the that's a really interesting book, and they they get into some really dark stuff, that I just like to have all the information. Like, I was interested to read it. The woman that wrote it, she felt she feels like a calling, like a witchy calling, so she was kind of exploring, and she got in like some really quickly into like some, I would say, kind of advanced, um like intense, kind of even newer practices. It's an interesting book. I would recommend it, just if you just like to nerd out on details of stuff. But
Yeah, I would love that.
yeah, they and then it was right after I got back from New Orleans, and so they they get into like some pretty intense stuff that goes on down there that involves grave robbing, that obviously um was pretty like horrific. But again, it's like I just like to have all the information and read it. And sorry that I always have to bring it up, but yeah, I there's like things I feel like I need to like talk through with people sometimes. So um okay, I'm gonna mute.
I was trying to get on Lori Cabot's website, and it's like I don't know what's going on, but I couldn't. It's I did just look up what it said on Wikipedia. So it actually says she founded the Cabot tradition of science of witchcraft and the Witches League for Public Awareness to defend the civil rights of witches everywhere. And she lives in Salem. Um, so sounds like that she founded her own tradition. But I don't know anything about it, but Stephanie will probably as you keep going to those events, which is cool. Um, your conversation made me think of, so when I went I went to community college in my 30s. I was early 30s. And I took this class called Myth, Magic, and Mystery. So at this point, I'm practicing like divination, tarot, and other divination practices, and been doing that since I was 21. But um I wasn't identifying as a witch then, because what when I the where I went to learn my divination practices and stuff, they were primarily witches from the Wiccan tradition. And so I still probably was calling myself Catholic at the time. And I sat in this class, and I had this best professor, and I actually emailed her when I first started Bright and Dark to see if she would email me back, because she had like just so much knowledge on different religions. But when I think back of some of the stuff that she said, I'm like, was she a witch? Like maybe she was. And like talking about kind of the older traditions. So we had to do a paper, a research paper on um I think it was magic. Um, but we did it on the Miss of Avalon. I don't know if any of y'all ever see that like movie with Angelica Houston and so yeah, like I had dressed up as Lady of the Lake for the presentation. So we were following like one kind of journey, one tradition. And I think it's in that movie, although I can't, I watched like a bunch of different movies. And is that where they have the brother and sister like try to procreate? Okay. So it's kind of like you have like, right, some of these older traditions like bloodlines, kind of like, and so they had this brother and sister that they kept apart from each other. And then they had this big ritual where it was like the chase, like the hunt. So the male was like hunting and it was like and they, had sex to try to produce this, being from this bloodline. And then the other movie that was The Wicker Man, not the one, I think Keanu Reeves was in that, but the original Wicker Man, which was in the 70s, I think. I was just kind of pulling all this stuff up. 1973. And that is another interesting movie too. It's like kind of if any of you want to watch it, I don't want to do like a huge spoiler, but it's basically like heavy on the fertility rituals. And there was like blood sacrifices involved and, what they believed had to happen so they'd have a good harvest, but that was heavy on the fertility rituals and things like that. I forget if I saw like the Wicker Man, like the later one, but yeah, Miss of Avalon is a movie. I never read the book. I'm always like a movie. There's on some occasions I do read the book, but mostly if there's a movie, I'm like, oh, there's Cliff's Notes. Great. I'll watch that. I do enjoy reading, but yeah. So Renee, you want to weigh in?
Yeah, it's funny because I did just watch The Wicker Man recently, like the old Wicker Man, because there's a lot of like folk horror movies that are coming out now. They're kind of low budget, and I really enjoy a good folk horror movie. And mostly because like in Midsummer or The Wicker Man, like it's like I'm kind of on board with a lot of stuff until like I'm not. It's interesting because they are like cults and like it's funny because I think oh my gosh, who was the main cult leader in Wicker Man? It's interesting to listen to him here. Like he's having an argument with this heavily Christian dude, and the cult leaders arguments like if I was an impressionable child, I'd be like, oh yeah, that makes way more sense, than this other thing. But it is just funny because yeah, in those movies, like I said, I'm kind of on board with some stuff until I'm not, like I think until it does take consent away, like it's interesting. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting kind of folky, and they all seem to be coming out of England too, which is kind of interesting. I think England seems to be having like a very like intense witchy renaissance lately. And I think I mentioned it once on the webpage, but there's a created witch named Esme Boggart. And so in England they have those landlord laws. And so um there's people like in this case it's like a family that like 3 or 4 generations have been tenants on this big estate. Like it's always like the aristocracy that owns it, right? So they're kicking, yes, they do talk about it on the witch podcast. But yeah, but so this whole village kind of rallies around this family that's getting kicked off property for no reason, and they don't have to cite a reason. And they built a witch, and they just kind of infused it with like I wouldn't say it's like a tulpa. It's really interesting, but Esme bog art has kind of taken on like a life of its own now. I'm always interested in that too, when it's like something um just has, I mean, like, because isn't that what makes like a god? It's like when enough people, or a being, it's like when enough people believe in it, it brings it into a reality, not necessarily our reality, but I'm really interested in that stuff too, which is pretty comic booky, but I'm also pretty comic booky, and that does happen a lot in comic books. But so whenever I see it like start happening in the real world, I'm always just like excited. But anyway, it's worth looking into. It's very interesting. So I'm gonna mute.
That is interesting.
If nobody has anything, I do have like maybe a fun question, something I've been thinking about lately. And you might not even be able to answer it now just because it's something I think you kind of have to ponder. But I've been thinking about the witchy stuff that I wish existed, that doesn't exist. And like one of the things is very silly, but it's like I would love like witchy trading cards. You know? Like I was thinking if we had them just for the group and like had people do spells and stuff, but like I just, you know what I mean? Like I just think about stuff like that. I'm just like, oh my gosh, like wouldn't that be awesome if like this thing existed or that thing? I have a list in case anybody ever, in case we ever get to that point. But I was like, wouldn't it be super fun if we had like our own trading cards, you know, in like the blind bags? But so anyway, I don't know if anybody has anything else they kind of wish, you know, existed but doesn't exist yet.
I have a little silly question the group might be able to help me with. So I've been, I'm always thinking about my next tattoo. And so I've been like really wanting some for my fingers, but I haven't been able to figure out. And then it dawned on me as I was reading something this morning, like, you know, the symbols of the elements, you know, pretty, very simple because it's got to be super simple on your fingers, you know, earth, air, fire, water, spirit. And I can't seem to find any answer in any research. So the answer is probably no. But would you think it would matter if they went in a particular order? Or could it be anything I wanted? Like, I don't think I could give the elements a hierarchy, right? Like to me anyways. But that's just kind of like a question I was thinking of as I'm making the appointment and going to be doing that. Um, like does the order matter, and do you use a particular order when you're doing your element work? Does anybody have any experience with that?
That's how he was first.
Yes. So I know when we did ritual when I was a kid, we always started in the east. Air was always first, and then you work clockwise around the circle. And it was just because the sun, the path of the sun and the moon, you know, it like would always go that clockwise. So you always start when the sun rises in the east, and then kind of move your way down clockwise. But I really think that if you have like something telling you you really want it to be this way, I don't think there's any hard and fast rules saying you have to have it any one way. I think with anything in the craft, you can make it your own, and if it means something to you, it means something to you, and you can create that. So I would say go for it, whatever you want to do.
So the how my brain works is how I would do it is when I'm doing my workings in my room that they would match up. Like if I could do them in the direction So basically, like if I'm standing here and I could have like, I don't know, my pinky finger like east because that's east. And then like my ring finger would be south because of fire because that points. So I would do it in a way that would help me remember where the directions were and like have them like aligned in the direction somehow if that's possible, but that's what I would do.
Like a left and a right on
Kind of. Exactly. Yeah. Um, and yeah, like when Jen Marie in the like beginnings of Bright and Dark, and I'm sure sometimes when we cast Circle, it's usually I felt I don't know what to say, like it's more maybe something, more modern, like not necessarily from the tradition, but sometimes or at times like it has been more have a traditional flair and it what we usually we as Satawi said, like it would start in the east and for casting going clockwise. But the other thing I wanted to mention is that there's different traditions that associate elements with different directions. So it's like another thing that's not super straightforward. So like I have, where east is air, south is fire, west is water, which is WW. So that one I can always remember. And north is east. But if you like go down the rabbit hole, you'll notice that's different in some other places. So that is something to consider too. Stephanie with the PH.
I don't have any help on this. I just have more confusion to add in my own brain and my own difficulty. So I lean into a druid's kind of path. And in there it is east is air and west is water and south is fire and north is earth. And so when I do it, I do east and west and then south for fire. And I want to end with north as earth and kind of end with grounded connection with the earth. But my brain gets real messed up because my feet are on the earth and my feet are south in my brain. And so my feet should be north and my head should be south in my brain. And every time I do it, I have to like do this weird flippy flop of like, it doesn't make sense to me in a logical way that north is up and south is down and feet are fire, but feet are ground. And I don't know. So that's not an answer, but it's a similar confusion. And I always have to like, I don't know, pull the earth up into my head and pull the fire from my feet up into my back. I don't know. So I feel you. I don't know answers either.
I think you need to move to a place where that works.
I should just move to like the southern hemisphere maybe, or just lay upside down or lay face forward or stand on my head. I don't know.
So just in the chat, about like if there's an apocalypse, yeah, like I've said, where's the meeting place? Like when shit goes down, where are we meeting? I said that to my boyfriend too. Like, where's our meeting place? Everybody should have one. So yeah, I'm down to have to pick a meeting place somewhere so we know where to go.
I'm so like obsessed with that idea too. It's funny. I think it's if you watch too much Walking Dead, like people are like, it's a zombie show, and I'm like, no, it's not. It's exactly how it would happen. And it is just kind of funny because yeah, it's like you kind of learn the things you need and the things you need to stay away from and like what works and what doesn't. But obviously you need a good water source, right?
Yeah. I feel like what should happen is we'd have to have like I feel like witches you should gather in your area so then you could move as a group to the meeting place, right? So you can have like that
Yes.
safety in numbers, right? So we'd have to like, I'm in Massachusetts, so like New England would have a meeting place. And then once all the New England witches gathered, we'd go to like, I don't know, Ohio or wherever it was, but we'd have to, yeah, you need like your pack probably to get there safely. And yeah, you need all the things. So probably not Ohio. We'd probably want to go on the coast unless it was near a Great Lake. Can you tell I've
So
I'm in
thought about
Kansas City.
this a little bit?
yeah. I have feelings about this because one of I think the best things about being a witch is just like you want all the skills. Like I know how to make rope. You know what I mean? Like it's like I think and in The Walking Dead there was a big thing too about like somebody needs to know how to make cheese. Like there's just you get all the skill sets together and we will be fine. We will be just fine in the apocalypse.
Satawi, did you have some?
I said you guys can't skip me. I'm in Kansas City, Missouri. So don't go to Ohio. Come here.
Yeah, there's we got a group there. We got witches there in that area.
It's Howie. I'm in the Ozarks, so you can come
Nice.
south. Yeah, we're close
Yes,
enough.
we'll meet up.
Yeah.
Yeah, British Columbia. That sounds like it could be the like a good meeting place. And Mira can make cheese, so
We are decided. British Columbia is.
I guess it depends on what kind of apocalypse, right? Like, is it going to get too hot or too cold? Are the
we
coasts going
don't
to
know.
clear? It depends. We'll have to be flexible.
I'm definitely
Right.
going where there's cheese. Like
I can make
definitely.
cheese and rope. I can do all the
Yep.
things.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of a natural witchy thing to just like we like our gardens and we like to plant and we like to like animal husbandry and we like crafty things. We just know how to do I feel like we know how to do more um that sounds kind of weird, but you know what I mean? Like we just have I think more interests in things that like are conducive to survival in the zombie apocalypse, like really. But yeah, I mean we can make like essential oils and distill things. I mean I can't think of anything like if we put everyone in the group together, I'm sure there's nothing we could think that we can do except maybe like make microchips or something.
I wonder if that has something to do with our past life connection, thin veiling with our past lives too. We remember our ancestry a little bit better
Oh,
than most.
I'm sure, like yeah, I'm sure it does factor in there.
So actually, Mira, if I can jump into, I wasn't going to talk about it because it's a Debbie Downer, but it kind of goes to what I am. SMAD is a word that my friend was talking about yesterday. I'm feeling very SMAD, which is sad and mad, because I haven't been able to celebrate the solstice because this 3D like world of job and finances and bills and blah 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 blah. And so I have like the farm and I have the chickens and I have the garden and I have honeybees, but I haven't been able to collect honey and I haven't been able to even check the hive this year. And they're just like living, thank God, without my assistance. And so I have all the stuff to be ready to like do all the stuff that I want to do, but I can't because the real world still exists. And I'm just so like mad about it. And it's like I'm eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and can see like croissants and blue cheese and grapes and like this delicious spread that's like that close. And I know I should be grateful that I have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and like I'm trying to have gratitude and patience, but I'm so mad and sad and I just want to stomp all over this stupid peanut butter and jelly sandwich because and I mean I could file bankruptcy is really the only way to get rid of my peanut butter and jelly sandwich and just full on go and let go of the rest of the 3D world and like full on like homestead and like make my own clothes and like be apocalyptic now. But I have kids, and do I really like let them grow up in homespun wool, when they may need to like live in, quasi reality? That's a hard choice when it's not made for you. And so I'm still trying to navigate waiting and doing and wishing and wanting and manifesting and blah 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 blah. But mainly I'm just ticked off that I can't make my little circle with the solstice rock and do my bees and do the garden and do the chickens and do the whatever, because I'm working 50 hours a week trying to just stay alive in the 3D world. And so I'm just mad. That's all I have to say about it. It's not very positive. The end.
Stephanie, I think you're next with the Stephanie with an F.
Yeah, I was just trying to make sure before I jumped on and cut somebody off, but I think you are in good company with that feeling. I mean, you're in really good company with that feeling. And I know it's come up in all kinds of bright and dark conversations that, like, if I could survive, quit my job, and be just witch all day, I would do that. Like, hands down, wouldn't have to think about it twice. But so far, I haven't won the lottery or anything like that. That would create some independent wealth. And I do have to feed my family and care for my family and myself and have a place to live and all those things. So, what I've been learning, I was struggling with that, particularly with the solstice as well, right? Because you wanted to find time to celebrate. And I did not have it on that day, like at all. There was not a spare minute. And my card pull that morning was about all the little magics throughout the day, right? Like, how can you make everything magical? And you can pull that into your 3D world. Like, you can make that peanut butter and jelly sandwich magic, right? You've got the sweetness of your jelly bringing into your life, and I would have to think about peanut butter, make it stick, right? Or whatever, right? Like, you can make those everything magical. So I've done things like with my job, I'm a hairstylist. When I go into my workspace every day, I've done things, and it's all windows, right? So I can't get too crazy without scaring somebody. But I go in, I have a bell that clears the space. I have a room freshener spray because I can't burn anything or anything in there. I um I write out my list of color formulas for the day with intention of connecting with each one of these clients. I have a bottle of Care Bear lotion. Like, there was a conversation in our Facebook group about the Care Bear stare one day. I don't know if anybody caught that, right? So the Care Bear stare. So I found this Care Bear lotion. So I put that all over my hands for caring for others and to help to connect with others. And that's just, it looks to anybody passing by like I'm, writing out my formulas and I'm putting on some hand lotion, but it has made all those little pieces of my day just a little bit more magical, because we do need to feed ourselves and our family and have clothes and things like that. So when I'm feeling particularly overwhelmed, that is what I try to remember to do. And however that looks throughout your day, in public spaces, even, I'm walking around with my bubble of whatever I need, for protection, or to conserve my own energy, or anything I can do. So again, to wrap up, I just try to, focus on all the little magics when I can't sit down and spend, hours creating a ritual and hours doing a ritual and all those sort of things, which would be great. I would love, hopefully we all can live like that someday. But in this current situation, unfortunately, I cannot, because I would definitely choose to just witch all day. Oh, I don't know if I don't see anybody else's hands up, but I'm going to mute myself.
Stephanie, I had a question about like the stuff that you wanted to do. Um, are you, because so like I have the part of my personality that I recognize is I can be an all or nothing, meaning if I can't do it, or I had these old beliefs that like it like so just say like cleaning the house. I have a hard time just cleaning a corner when I like want to do the whole when I'm going to clean, I'm like that means I'm cleaning the whole house. And so it took me time to like kind of sort that out with my system about I don't it doesn't need to be all or nothing. So why I asked that is like, is there 1 hour that you can find to go do something that you want to do?
But yeah, so I was thinking about this yesterday and during the solstice, and it wasn't the all that I want it to be, but we were able to like have a barbecue and sit outside and catch fireflies. And so it's like, and so I was asking my question to myself of like, and we are on a farm in the Ozarks, and I was thinking like people would kill to have this, I mean, we have the chickens and we have the bees and we have, 200 acres and we have this beautiful view, but I can't go hike in it, and so would you rather be 100 miles from your destination or 10 inches from your destination and not be able to finish those last 10 inches, and so it's this, I mean, I don't know, like which one sucks worse. They both suck if you're in that mindset of it sucks, and so I'm trying to let the destination go and enjoy the process and enjoy the view and not worry about finishing those last 10 inches of fully letting the stuff that I don't want to be doing go and fully being in where I want to be and all that stuff. So I am reclaiming as many hours and moments and seconds of the day as I can. And I'm meditating while I'm putting the kids to bed. And I'm letting, 75% of the house be messy and cleaning 25%. And I'm enjoying the view, even though I can't go hike in the view and I can't make the solstice circle. I can at least look where the sun is setting in the pretty picture. And so it's, yes, it's halfway there, and I'm trying to let go of the all or nothing. And I'm also trying to give up on getting to the all. And weirdly, like all the messages keep coming in of like, oh my God, this big amazing thing is coming. And then I think maybe the algorithm is just like fucking with me. And like I'm just watching all of these readers that are like, you know, I don't know, trying to sell me bright, positive, cheery things. But then when I do my own readings, like I also see like the same messages that like big, beautiful, wondrous, lovely things are coming. But I think I need to let go of when, because I think when could be 100 years or the next lifetime. And I need to let go of when and just let now be good enough. And maybe it will never happen. And maybe this is it. And this is the destination. And just be happy with a peanut butter sandwich because it is feeding me. But then I don't know, then I feel like that invalidates the desire to have the thing. And it's okay to want to have the thing. So what is that? 7 of Cups? All the freaking blah, 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 up in my head. Satawi.
So I think it could be a good time to practice kind of the meditation this month of the to me and for me, and maybe just changing your perspective a little bit so that you don't have to like make time to do those magical things, but you see things as magical. So if something's happening to you, take a minute and step back and be like, okay, what part of this could be like a sign from a deity, or maybe the elements are trying to tell you something or connect with you in some way, and maybe the wonderful things that are coming are already there. It's just a matter of getting your brain to kind of switch off from this mindset to a slightly different one, see from a different perspective. And maybe you already have that abundance and that beauty and that loveliness. And it's definitely okay to still want more and to still look back and think, like, God, I want all of it. And you should still absolutely go for it. But I think you could be really happy with what you have if you kind of give yourself a break and let yourself just see things differently rather than trying to make time and make it magical and, you know, really put that weight on yourself. Just see it a little differently.
Stephanie with the Nash. Did you still have a weigh in? No? Good. Okay. Renee?
So I was gonna say, and Stephanie, tell me if this sounds right to you. It sounds like you, I mean, it sounds like you feel like restricted in your choices, which I think is like a very witchy thing. Like I think like we want all the options, you know, and we don't want anyone to tell us what to do or how to live. And so um I was just wondering, and I think Satawi said it, you know, better than I can, but like if you can kind of chaos it up a little bit and just be like, okay, I'm gonna make this like a secret thing for me. Like um like build on your inner world until you can and take it external. Um Hopefully that makes sense.
So I resonate hard with what you're experiencing. And what I've kind of feel first is just to validate your experience, because when the veil gets pulled back about capitalism and the patriarchy and the bullshit, is you can't go back. Right? So it's like none of us can go back. So like, okay, here we are. It's bullshit, like many other things. So I'm just going to say bullshit as a catch-all for right now. It's so many things. Um, and um, I'm still going through this process, but here's kind of where I'm at, and maybe you'll find a ping in there for you. So I have a job that I don't want to go to, but I have a mortgage that I would still like to pay. And so it's like I work to pay this mortgage, right? Like basically to eat, but really just to pay this mortgage. And I realize that because I was in a place where like I just wanted to be like, fuck it. Fuck it. Like I don't want to do this anymore. I'm like really tired. Not just like I need a nap. Like I'm tired in my bones, right? Like I'm sick of it. I'm tired. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. And then when I like kind of down that rabbit hole, it was like I was bargaining, well, you know, um, I was like bargaining, like you said, like, so I could just go bankrupt, you know what I mean? And then just like, fuck it. And then just whatever. Right. And that's an option. I mean, that's something that you could do if you wanted to. But I realized through that process that my beliefs were very limited. I felt like I was limiting myself in like what I believe can be, come through manifestation and through like the belief work of kind of like the energetics of it. And so I realized, yeah, so I just kind of took a look at that as like kind of part of the shadow work process and my relationship with control, because I grew up to want to know exactly what I was going to do. I was going to have this goal, I was going to accomplish it, and then I was going to check the next thing off the list, because I didn't have that. And so I created this world that I was going to control my environment. So I knew what was going to happen. It was going to be what I wanted, and it was safe, going to be safe for me, right? So by like being that specific about controlling, I was also being very limiting. So, because that like my belief was like to have abundance in my life that I have to work. That's actually not true, right? So it's like people do like, do I really have to work this 9 to 5 to be able to pay my mortgage? Like the answer is no, but I just don't like, it's just not my reality right now. But I don't want to limit my beliefs to say that the only way I can pay my mortgage is to work this job, because then I'm going to keep working this job. And literally when I started Bright and Dark in August of 2021, I had a one-to-one with Jen Marie because I wanted to meet her before I joined Bright and Dark. And my first like meeting with her was about my job. Like I'm still, it was about this. And all she said is, well, there's something in this job for you if you're still there. And so I'm like, yeah, what is that? Like, right. And so it's kind of been, and so I'm still in this job that supports me, but yet I really would prefer to be doing something else. And so it's kind of been now this little adventure of figuring that bit out of it, like focusing on, well, why am I here? Like, what is this for me? And so kind of reframing it, I feel like it doesn't happen every day. Believe me, I still can have days where like I'm in my feels, and like it's interesting because these catalysts keep happening at work and these conversations, and I'm in these meetings and I'm like, what I used to feel so aligned with, I no longer feel aligned with. And so I'm just kind of proclaiming that. Like that in the past, I kind of felt aligned with this, but I don't anymore. Even just like the approach to the business and all of that, which is like, it isn't as I do work in a very supportive environment. So like, that's wonderful, but, it's just interesting. So I'm kind of like using it as like this, almost like this whole kind of discovery, like shadow work, kind of like inward turn bit to see, well, like, why am I here? What is this for me? And then trying not to limit things by being so like having laser focused on like that I want more abundance. This is what I want my life to look like. I want to be able to wake up with no alarm clock, just wake up when I want to wake up, having all of my needs met, and like not have to punch a clock. And I just want to be able to work when I feel like I want to, right? Like when I feel inspired to. So that's what I want. The old version of me used to say like, well, I'll have to get this job because I need to make this amount of money to accomplish what it is I want. And I realized that the universe will meet me there. Like if I say I want this job and I keep going, like eventually I'll probably get there. But like, what opportunities did maybe I not get to explore because I was so like focused on controlling how I got there? So I don't know if that is helpful, if that resonates. I do feel you where you're at. And I think that like so many of us go through that, or are going through it right now. Thank you.
That does help, and the validation of it helps too. And I don't want to dox, is that what they call it, myself too hard, but I've shifted from higher paying jobs that are more in the 3D realm, downgrading kind of into lower status, lower, I don't know, socially, I don't know, important, I guess, or proclaimed or well-known or whatever jobs, trying to get into like passion, and so like doing death and dying work. But then each time I get into a different job, that I let go of like materialistic stuff and ego stuff and trying to shave away and let go and do ego death stuff, which has been happening like insanely. And it does feel like there's a psychic kind of break that is looming. It just like breaks into like the, I don't know what to call it other than the patriarchal capitalistic and so then they're like asking me to bill unethically, and I had to leave that position, and then I go into another position where it's again like support and death and dying stuff, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna hold the hands of these people as they transition in this beautiful, you know, heart, you know, and I'm not gonna be paid much, but whatever, I'm gonna be doing this heart work or whatever. And they got me like filling out paperwork for Meals on Wheels applications, which is fantastic. It needs to be done, but it's not like the soul centered, you know. And so again, it's like this capitalistic, like, you know, these people. And so there are lessons, obviously, that I'm learning and need to be learning in this situation. Again, if I had the syllabus and knew like what is the end goal of this and what am I supposed to be learning, and why do I keep being told in all of these flip-flopping messages that I'm supposed to be speaking and there's supposed to be a spotlight and I'm supposed to be using my voice, but like I don't know what the hell I have to say to whom about what. Like again, I keep getting like this psychic spiritual over and over again tarot message of like, hey, you need to speak up, you need to say something, you need to like use your voice, you need to da 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 da. About what, bro? Like, can I get an English spirit to English like translation dictionary, please? I mean I have a lot to say, but so I'm just like treading water, waiting patiently, which I guess is what the flip-flopping message is patience. I feel like Lieutenant Dan at the top of the mast just being like, strike me with lightning already, please, God. Just let the storm hit. I'm ready. I'm waiting. Come on. But I do get these little fairy sprinklings. Like, I mean, I found, I don't know, here, like, you know, I find like 4-leaf clovers, you know, every time I look down on the ground. I found like an arrowhead, you know, I'm finding all these little fairy sprinkles like all over the place. Like, obviously on the right path, just a very uncomfortable path, but I would prefer there to be directions and a syllabus that I could highlight. I think Renee was next and then Ezra.
I was just gonna empathize with you a little, Stephanie, just in the way that like sometimes you'll like I'll talk to a medium or you know the tarot cards or whatever and things keep coming up. And like one of the things that always comes up for me is I should be a teacher. And I'm like, no, I shouldn't. Like, I absolutely should not. I am not qualified for anything. And I'm like kind of a lunatic, you know what I mean? Like I don't even know what's gonna come out of my mouth half the time. But it is a weird thing. I mean, it's like I can teach you to draw an eyeball, you know, but I can't teach you anything. Like, you know, I don't know. It's just it is interesting and weird when it seems like there's a message kind of like pounding on your door and you're like, I don't get it, like I don't understand what this is supposed to mean. So I just wanted to just throw that out there and say like I feel you. I'm gonna go Ezra, you're up.
Yeah. First, I wanted to say that the thank you for like being so vulnerable to us, because like I think that is part of using your voice. Like you are not. I think everybody in here like is feeling some of what you're feeling. It's like a very turbulent time. Like I think it's turbulent too, though, because things are changing. Like I just like it's the end of something. That's scary. That's a death, right? Like there are things to grieve here. There are things to like to let go of, like that are hard to let go of because they were like, they felt like safety at some point, even if they were like harmful, right? And so like I often will get like that image of like, and the song specifically, Just Around the River Bend, from Pocahontas, because like it feels, and because, you know, I also often think of like reality itself as like a river. Like some people, like we're like clinging to rocks because we're like, oh my God, they're like, I don't know what's around that corner. But it's like what we want, like in my belief, is around that corner. It's just that it's gonna be a little scary to go around it because we haven't been there before. And so I think just you like talking about this kind of thing, that is like a release that's happening. Every time you talk about it, it will get a little easier. And I'm like a proponent of talking about it. I'm also a proponent of singing about it, which it was kind of like my, when Renee was saying like, her guides were saying she should be a teacher. I think you would be a great teacher, Renee, by the way. Like, I think you're a beautiful artist, and like I think you could totally like teach people not just art, but a lot of things. I always learn something when you talk here. So I think you're already doing it a little. But also I remember hearing like, you gotta sing. And I'm like, I sing all the time. Like, although there were actually like periods in my life where I really didn't sing very much, except for maybe only in my car. And it was like, no, but you got to sing like more. You have to actually like do it in front of people. And I remember like feeling like this, like very, like this tension of like, oh, I'm not supposed to be doing that. And part of my like deep shadow work stuff around that was like feeling like song is like, you're just showing people your vibration. You're just like, here it is. This is like who I am. And I'm going to like literally showcase it like on a stage sometimes and that kind of thing. It's very vulnerable. And I had like fear that I wouldn't be good enough. And then like as I've started like learning guitar, and I'm going to start learning piano soon too. And like I keep on like unraveling these layers of like, but I'm not actually a musician. Like, but I'm not actually good at this stuff, like that kind of thing. And something occurred to me last night where I was like, because I've also been deconstructing like the like wanting to be really good so that I can like that like want to be famous, essentially. Like I'm deconstructing what that actually means. And I wrote like all these notes about it, right? I was just like, what do I actually want? Just like attention a little, like, right? And that's like a perfectly reasonable thing to want. I think we kind of like, especially like with kids and stuff, we'll get hung up on like, oh, they just want attention. I'm like, yeah, attention is a legitimate need to have. And then you know, like people to appreciate who I am, like people to like my art, to like enrich other people with art and stuff like that. And so I've always been kind of like, I was wondering if like in the future, like that we're creating like this community-based future, what even is fame? Like why would I want to listen to like a rando's music instead of like my friend's music more than some, you know, like some celebrity that like media told me is a really good artist? And this thought came to me where I was like, I think I know enough people that if I put on a concert, they would just come because they like me. Like, and I'm like, that doesn't seem right. They should come because I'm good. like I was like, that's not enough. That's just because they like me. But like the music is me. So like, that's the point, right? And I was just like sitting there, like in that resistance for a while, like, really, like people would come just because they like me? That doesn't seem like, I was deconstructing the capitalism around it, like, and the like need to be good and like what talent is and like the perfectionism of like, I need to be doing this for like X amount of time in order for me to be qualified to like put a show on, right? And so I had this like vision of like not like being able to like go help people the way I want to help them, and just like and like community building and organizing and like do like everybody just doing what they could for some, like as a friend, like when someone, like I was deconstructing like what professionalism like even means, and like I kind of would prefer like a friend to be doing things for me instead. And I think that's the world that we're like headed toward. Like I don't like I've known a lot of really mean qualified teachers, for example, Renee, like really mean people who are not teaching anything like worth knowing. I would rather somebody like that I know and trust, like, you know, teach my kids something, or somebody like that I know could cook me a meal, or some like all of like this kind of like, I think friendship is like, and learning how to build those things is going to be like the antithesis to capitalism, like, you know, what we're doing here, and like, and the various like even just like the small business support stuff like that. Why would you shop over there instead of at Walmart? You know, like, because that's your friend. Like, why, like I was having a conversation yesterday, and someone was saying like, oh, but we need shoes. Like I worked in a factory where we were making shoes like 16, 18 hours a day. And that's like necessary because people need shoes. And I'm just like, but is it necessary? Like, is it necessary for there to be like, make the cheapest shoe possible to sell for $20 so that it falls apart and goes in a landfill, rather than have a few pairs of shoes made by like your friend that's a shoemaker, you know? And they said, but it's so expensive when you do it that way. And I'm like, what do you mean by expensive? Like the cost of a shoe is just the cost of like keeping a community member's feet safe. Like that's what it costs. Like that's like a worthy price, right? Like that's what it costs. And so I've just been doing a lot of like shifting in my thinking, and it is very hard when you've lived in scarcity. Like it's really weird to me to be where I am right now, like after growing up so poor. Like I lived in the same room as my mom for years. Like 3 years ago, I was evicted, like like that kind of thing. And it feels very like I feel guilt about not like about everything I have. And so doing this shadow work on all of that is like so magical, and I can like feel it moving things. It in my reality, I feel it like shifting every time I talk about it or write a song about it. And so I also got like a channeled message from the universe that I felt like I wanted to share, where it's like I got like the image of these like little birds actually, like with suitcases and notepads. like there's like a door like that open, and they just are like taking notes. They're just like, okay, I see all the things that like that are messy right now, and we've come to tidy up. And that it was like and that's what I felt like. I also, you know, at the same moment I was realizing that I'm a tidy person, and I've never really been able to like express that. I've been like stuck in executive dysfunction. And so if anyone's ever seen Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog, there's a guy that says the world's a mess and I need to rule it. And like he's like a supervillain. And I had this like thought of like the world's a mess and I need to tidy it. And, you know, I'm thinking about like all the oceans and the landfills, but also like just our, you know, homes, and like our all of the things that have gotten so messy through the neglect that like capitalism like forces on us, because we're like all so exhausted. and like kind of in constant burnout. And a lot of people haven't even started the recovery from burnout because they're just, being taken advantage of by capitalism. So I think that's the end of my thought train. Thank you for listening. Renee, I think is up there.
Is it okay to weigh in on that, Ezra?
Yeah.
Okay. So you were born in the wrong decade because you have a punk rock heart. Like, you totally should have grown up in the late 80s, early 90s, because for one thing, as far as like I played in like punk rock bands when I was a kid. I went to so many shows that were my friends' shows that it wasn't, I didn't go because they were good. It was because they were my friends, you know. And I just want to validate you because as someone who has played in a lot of punk rock bands, and you are an incredible lyricist and guitarist. And I think a lot of times when you're teaching yourself, like, because I grew up in like the DIY, like Riot Girl time when it was just like, we're like, we don't want to do it your way. We don't have to be perfect. We just want to do the thing, you know? And I think some of the best art comes out of that. Like when sometimes when you have a teacher, that's one of my fears too. It's like, I'm just going to teach you to do it wrong. Like, I'm going to teach you how I do it, which isn't really like the right way to do it. But yeah, I mean, I think there's so much more that comes out of the experimentation, you know, that goes along with uh teaching yourself things. And I think you're doing so awesome. I can't wait to like play your CD in my house, your home burned CD in my house. So yeah, it's exciting. And I mean, like, it having like people you really care about, but also having people that have your back, it's just like the best feeling. It's really, really great. So yeah, I'm excited for what you're doing. But also, yeah, I would just say to everyone, um, yeah, perfection is kind of a killer. Like, it kind of takes the fun out of it, you know. And don't be afraid to experiment, because again, in art, like, you learn from your mistakes, right? Like, that's where you learn like your best stuff. Like, you're never really failing, you're always learning. So that is my soapbox I'm going to climb off of right now and mute myself. And Maria.
Thank you. It was funny because right before I came to SASS, I was like, I'm trying to play music before the meetings, and my computer audio kind of stinks. And I grabbed this small Bluetooth speaker, and my boyfriend's like, "Oh, why don't you take he's my boyfriend's like big into audio visual, and he's like, why don't you take this up to your room?" He's like, it has a CD player. You like CDs? I'm like, yeah, I do like CDs. So that was funny. So yes, send me the CDs. Apparently I have a CD player. So take the burned CD. I graduated high school in 1999. And so I like love the 80s and also the 90s. And but the other kind of weigh-ins is Ezra, like, it's interesting because I think, yeah, sometimes I just was reminded, like, make sure you tell your the people how much like you enjoy their content. Like, every time you're singing on TikTok or you're playing, it always just brings me such joy when I see that, pop up in my scroll. It like highlights my day. And I can feel the authenticity and the place at which it comes from, and that like resonates with me so much. Like, you could just feel that, and I just really love that about you. And I think you're super authentic, super talented, and like everything you do, I'm just in awe by. So I love that. So even if you just do it knowing that I need the scroll, but no, um, but no, it's amazing. And Stephanie, what you said about like needing the syllabus and you want to highlight it and you want to know like where to get to. I resonate with that hard. And it's funny because when I started my path at Bright and Dark, I could no longer see what I was supposed to do next. I couldn't. I always had the feeling of like where to kind of navigate, where to pivot next. And then I kind of started this journey and I don't know. And and now like I'm okay with it. And what I kind of mull around in my brain is it really I'm supposed to get somewhere? Because believe that I was my purpose was to like do the thing and figure out the thing and do that. And then you would like fulfill this kind of purpose. And just my relationship with that is I don't think there is an end game. Like I think there are just kind of like these lessons, and there's many different options for me to kind of get the lesson. And like the learning, but not all of it has to be hard. Like a lot of it is hard, yeah. But it can like learning like how to experience joy and just even learning how to take the pressure off myself was like also like a valid, like super valuable lesson for me. And for some reason that journey, that kind of path, like took a lot of pressure off of me. And so like what I'm choosing to is just still like, doing the shadow work thing, doing the therapy thing as I need to, talking to friends and like, and in spaces like this. But like, I'm really then just decided that I was just going to follow my excitement to the best of my ability in the moment and just see where that leads me and kind of be excited at the fact that I don't actually know. And that wasn't an easy, like, I'm just saying that's not how I always felt. So I didn't always, feel that way. Bashar, and yeah, I do like a lot of Bashar. But the reason why I like a lot of Bashar is because it like he put into words what I felt, or the Bashar as the entity put into words like what I was kind of feeling. But so yes. And do I do it like perfectly? No, like I absolutely don't. And I just let myself know that like, oh, I'm having a human experience. And so yes, like I'm there, we are all divine. I believe like we're all like these divine beings. And I am divine, divine being, but I'm here having this like human experience. And yet I always say I have a fuck ton of questions about why the human experience is this way. Especially like when we get to talk about things about like suffering or abuse and things like that, like that's really hard for me. That's like hard for when I say some of these things about like manifestation or things like that, and then energetics, but then knowing that there's still a lot of suffering in the world. So like I just recognize that I guess that it is, and that I just recognize that I don't have the answers. I just don't have like the answers to all of it, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that I can't like still be joyful and like and then feel like to around like my relationship with money. Like I say all of that, and like I want a life of luxury. So like I'm still going for that. You know what I mean? Like, has that kind of shifted? Yes. Do I where I spend my money and like right, like how I earn money and the energetics about money, I'm much more thoughtful and aware of that, but I still want it. I do. Like I can't even, I do. And so because in this world, there are things that I want that I need money to do. And so I still, and whether that be, Stephanie said, or I think it was, Mira said, like, why are we waiting for the apocalypse? Let's just do that shit now. Like, yeah, if I had billions of dollars, you'd all be invited. Like, we'd be doing that shit now. And I'd have no, and so, but that's not the only way to do it, right? Me having $1 billion isn't the whole way to do it. There's totally other ways to get there. But I think about that too, like about that part of kind of myself. And I kind of like takes me off to a side quest too, just about like there's a lot of discussions within the spiritual community about making money or like charging for your gifts and different things like that. And there's a witch that I really like from New England, Laura Tempest Zackroft. She's a professional witch. I we had one time a book club. Maybe we'll bring book club back someday. But Weave the Liminal is a book that I highly recommend, that I really like, and I feel like it aligns with like the stuff that we do. But she had posted something about kind of the business of witchcraft and making money and stuff like that, and it really resonated with me. So anyways, that's just another side quest. But back to you, Stephanie, with PH. um it's just like, I don't know, is it really about the final destination, or is that just kind of something we think? Like, do we think there is like a destination? I don't know. It's like I have a question mark around that, if anyone else feels like. Thank you. Yes, Weave the Liminal. And Laura like does a lot of thing classes. She has sigil books and teaches that. And yeah, I like her. I think her I can't actually remember what her pronouns are, if they're she or they, but they're awesome.
I can say something back towards what you brought up about just money and capitalism and being rich and all the shadow work that I've had to do. And I grew up poor too, Ezra. Like, and so like wanting that, but then feeling greedy and not wanting that. And my hatred is a strong word, but hold on. Children, get up. Oh. Sorry, I just shoot my children now. So hatred is a strong word, but disgust maybe, and ickiness with rich people and doing all the shadow work of like, I want this thing that I hate, that I want, that I hate, that I've never met a nice rich person, but I haven't met that many because I've never been rich, and like all of this money shadow work. And yeah, so I just feel you on that, Maria, of like wanting, but also despising, but wanting, but honestly, from the help of Bashar, getting to those beliefs of the shadow work. I mean, he does. I mean, I think people sometimes think that he is spiritual bypassing stuff, but I don't think he is. I think it's straight up shadow work, what he's doing of digging deep into the belief system of like, why? Like, why is being rich a bad thing? Why is having money a bad thing? Why is that? And it's made me really look and think of like, well, it's not necessarily a bad thing unless you're, what word can I say, bad person about it. Like if you donate and give and support and love and spread kindness and wonderful things, and like it doesn't have to be this icky, gross, bad, greedy, clinging, mean, judgmental thing that I've always associated it with. Like, anyways, that's a tangent, but they, whatever, it has helped me do my own shadow work to be able to kind of see money and finances and abundance in that way as a neutral thing that can be used for good or evil. darker light or whatever. Don't know. Does anybody, Petra, did you want to say something? I don't know. I don't know what side quest we're on now.
Renee?
Can I start a new side quest? Just because I want to tell everybody about this woman that I met that like blew my mind. Um, she's an older woman, and she was forced to move here like basically against her will because of her children, because she can't take care of herself. So she, has been struggling to find community. But she said something to our local group the last time she was there that she had sold like a house, and the transaction wasn't going smoothly, and she said like she could haunt her own house if she wanted to, like she could go haunt her old house if she wanted to. And like all of us were just like so conflicted, because it's just like fuck yeah you can, like it's such an interesting concept to me. I don't know if anybody else, I don't know, I just have been kind of going down a rabbit hole too of people that see ghosts of people that are still alive, and that's kind of the same thing, and I just find it super duper fascinating. And yeah, I don't know, I like, you know I love hearing like first person stories of stuff, because you're just like, whoa, that's a thing, like, but also, I mean, she was saying she wasn't going to do it because that's mean, but um, yeah, that's one of the more interesting concepts I've stumbled across lately that is witchy. So I just thought I'd share that. Maria.
So I haven't gone down that research path yet, but it was funny because just talking about like experiencing like different entities like in your house or whatever. I mean, it's funny because it's funny though, because if that's possible, like I wouldn't want to haunt my old house, but I would like to go visit. So, like maybe I'll look into that. Because just like, connecting, I'm not interested in like haunting anything, but like when we talk about like just connecting with the spirit, like of the house, like every house I've lived in, I feel like, so having kind of that connection, I don't know. It's just interesting to think about. But the rabbit hole that I'm kind of in, because I feel like I have my cycle right now, and like I feel like I have cramps all the time, and I'm like, oh, this must be perimenopause. And I was just laughing the other day because like talking about the to me and the for me, and I was like, okay, like the perimenopause for me is all like I don't give a fuck. Like meaning like I just like all of the like things that I'm worrying about, and I'm just like I don't care, whatever. And like I kind of felt something in my room the other day, and I was like, do whatever you want, like just don't bother me. And like that's not something that I would have like done in the past. And so I feel like kind of like the maiden mother crone, like entering kind of this crone phase. And I'm like, I can see why, the crones are like kind of the matriarchs, because it's just like that energy. And I'm like, that like this like menopausal thing that I feel like I'm entering in within the next, who like I feel like I'm starting it, but who knows when it will act, could be 10 years, till I get there. But like the hormones are like changing, and just like being like engaging as a witch or in a magical practice with this, it feels like super powerful, and that I'm like I just don't fucking care in like the best way possible, like not in like a bad way, like like in like a shedding things that like it's like almost like an acceleration of shedding things that no longer serve you, and like really just seeing like more clearly like what you like what it is that's kind of highlighted. So I don't know, Renee, why you said that just made me think of that, so I did kind of go off, but I yeah, That's all. Thanks. I don't know if anyone else has feelings about that, but we have 23 more minutes. Stephanie with an F.
I'm gonna go down that menopause trail because I'm loved hearing you say that, because that is a lot how I have felt about it. Like, I can't be bothered with ridiculousness, right? Like, there's just don't bother me, do your thing, right? And I love it. Like, I have fully embraced in it. And I think that's a lot of why women historically were institutionalized in that period, right? Because they weren't playing the game anymore, or killed or murdered in horrific ways. But I'm only part of the way through the book, but there's a book called, was it Hag, The Demonization of Middle-Aged Women. And it is about that transition into, the more living a more out of fucks kind of life. It's pretty good, which I'm grateful for that part, right? Because society tells us we're supposed to be, you know, sexually fertile and available or beautiful, or live basically for the patriarchy, to perform for the patriarchy. And when you head into menopause, and I'm sorry to do this from such a female perspective, it's the one I know, so I hope that's not leaving anybody out, but like, heading into that is really, really freeing and really, really empowering, I think. And so therefore really, really terrifying to the patriarchy. So anybody who's scared of, who might have to possibly face that one day, who's scared of it, it is not all bad. It is not all bad at all, because I really love that aspect of it, Maria. So thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah. And it's too, it's like even like all the conversations that we've had today, like about why things are the way they are, and like even like the conversation about money and like where we are with our lives. And it's kind of just like, it's not about like the thing, right? Like money in itself isn't the problem. It's it's the way it's like being managed. It's the systems, right? That like the patriarchy and like capitalism. It's like, so I feel like at this point in my life, I don't know, I feel like free to just be like, I don't like, I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say, and I just don't care if you like me anymore. So, like, or if everybody likes me, because I know the people that I care about still will. But like, like I'm not interested in like being the most popular, like, or well liked. So it's like whatever is like happening. Yeah, I'm like, this is great. So it was there a little bit before, but it's just kind of like, I'm like, I have really bad cramps. I need to say what I need to say and go lie down. Like I need to get to the meat of things, you know? Renee. They had their hand up.
I did for a minute. I don't know why this just popped in my head, but also I think what goes along with kind of hanging out is like, if you have a good partner that's on your side, like my husband. One of my friends said, you'd never look at Rich and know he's a feminist, and he totally is, because he looks like a grumpy old raggedy construction man, but yeah, it's really interesting, because like, it's just interesting that he's on board for all of it too, and like, um yeah, it's I don't even know why that made me think of that, but just yeah, because I think you do go through changes, and just like knowing someone's doesn't expect you to be the same person you were 20 years ago is really, really nice. And it was my anniversary is on solstice, so I guess he's on my mind, so I just had to give him a little shout out, so I'm gonna mute.
So Stephanie, I was looking for the name of the book there. So that is also a podcast. What is the name of it?
Hag, The Demonization of Middle-Aged Women.
Okay.
I don't think it's a podcast, but it's definitely the book. I'm not aware of a podcast.
Okay. Stephanie PH, there was they said there was a podcast that you think talks about that too?
Sorry, I was talking about the BBC podcast Witch that talks about the history of the witch trials in Europe. And I really liked it. I think it did a good job of talking about just the history of it. And they weren't witches. They weren't witches. They
I
weren't
know.
witches. They were poor women. And it really had a lot to do with how industry changed and capitalism. Basically, it always comes back to capitalism and patriarchy, and how the women, because of the way the money system changed, these old women kind of got pushed out of society and ended up poor, kind of old beggar women that were living out in the land, and they would come around and like ask for food and stuff, but they were these ballsy, well, maybe not ballsy, ovary, strong, haggardly menopausal women that just didn't give a fuck. And they didn't have families and they didn't have money. And so they weren't controllable in those ways. And so they were kind of the beginning of who they started targeting in the witch trials. And it also gives a good explanation in that it wasn't like this witch hunt with, and I may be telling people stuff they already know, but this is what I got out of that. It wasn't like this witch hunt with like pitchforks and, torches on fire that we kind of think about in fiction. It was just like a boring kind of like legal, like you're annoyed with your neighbor and you take it up with the law and then they file a claim and then they kill somebody. Like it was much less sensationalized, which is scarier. Anyways, it's a really good podcast, I thought.
That's right.
That's really interesting. I didn't know about that part, but it makes sense to me, like that the pitchforks type of imagery is kind of for fiction. Like it's to show you a lot of people got angry and they were violent. That's pretty much just the image they wanted to get in their head. And
well, I think also is to be like, oh, well, there's no angry mob outside my house, so I'm safe. But there could be a pissed off neighbor that signs a petition that takes it to the courthouse and you're not safe. Like it was much less dramatic, which is more dangerous.
yeah, what it also reminded me of was the like white people calling the cops on noisy black neighbors and then the cops killing the black neighbors, essentially. Like it's like basically an indirect violence. Like maybe the neighbor even didn't mean for that to happen. They were just like using their power against someone that they consider to be a lower social status. But I also wanted to say to something Renee said that I really liked was the idea of like people growing with you and not expecting you to be the same person. Because I've mentioned this before, but like doing shadow work and doing magic in general and just learning more and more about the universe, something will click and then it'll just change like everything that you want to do. Sometimes like it'll just be like, oh, I get that now. And like, I don't know, I'm saying you in a generalized way. That's how it has worked for me anyway. But like, a lot of times I'll just like stew on something and it'll just like swirl around in my head. And then one day something will click. And then from then on, I just am different. Like, it's just I'm like, oh, I made a choice. And now I get why I would do that. And so I like feel it going forward. And so it has been very important to me to like have like like I actually made like a deal with Ocean at some point because Ocean felt the same fear of like, but what if I say something tomorrow that contradicts what I just said today? Like that kind of thing. Like, what if I, like, and I felt that fear a lot too. And I was just like, what if I don't hold you to it? What if, what if I don't hold you to anything? What if I just accept exactly the way you are today and how you're experiencing life today? instead of saying, like, you're unreliable, or you said this, and like a lawyer, like trying to like keep this contract. Like, what if the contract that we're like making in a friendship, or any relationship, is just always evolving? And it takes a lot of acceptance, and like some people like that want to control things. They they're very scared by that idea of like not knowing exactly what's going to happen, because then like they'll be like I've had experiences in my past where like an ex was just like, what if one day I do something and it changes our relationship forever, and like you leave me, that kind of thing, which of course like made me like feel like I had to say, no matter what you do, I will never leave you. Right. Which is like, exactly, that's not the dynamic you actually want in there, in a relationship. And so it's like, hey, if there's something that really hurts me, like, let's talk about it, like that kind of thing. But I think it's actually a very like healthy way to go forward, to say like, whatever evolution happens, like I'm gonna try to be cool with that, but like also let's like keep updating, let's like keep the line of communication open, and kind of also accept that sometimes you might outgrow someone, like you might go on different paths, and that's like really scary sometimes when you have like abandonment trauma or something like that. So I really liked that note, so thank you both for sharing.
I'm just gonna jump in and tell everybody real quick, because I just think this is so adorable. My husband, when he's home, because he works on a rotational schedule, he loves to eavesdrop on us. Like, he like tries to be in the room that I'm in. And then this is really funny. I think you'll love this, Ezra. He'll be like, who's talking right now? And he especially enjoys what you have to say, Ezra. So thank you everyone for also enlightening my dearest darlingest husband, because he's on board for it, so it's pretty fun. Because again, if you watch him, like he sent me a picture of him yesterday driving the fire truck, like because he's also like a volunteer firefighter. Like, you would never know. And he's not witchy and spooky, but he's he's a good sport, I'll put it that way. Maria.
I think that's great. I got like a full imagery of your husband like doing that, and that's great. Yeah, one thing I think is like that I think about a lot as humans, and it's happened like through our like bright and dark journey to like all of the pivots that we've had and things. It always like fascinated me like that you can kind of like decide you're going to do something one way. Like, you just made it up, right? Like a bunch of people got together and you just kind of decided that you were going to do it that way. And then like things might happen, you get more data, something didn't work out, or people are feeling differently. When you go to change that, it brings up like a lot of different feelings, right? And we've all like experienced that, and like heartache and disappointment and failure. But it's like maybe like the neurodivergent kind of part of me, or is always like, but why? Because we just made it up to start with. You know what I mean? I don't. That's just something that I like think about. Like, we kind of just kind of make these like contracts, right? Like Ezra, like you and Ocean were saying, and I love that. Kind of maybe that needs to just kind of be spoken out, like this is where we're at right now, but as things like progress, we have to kind of like feel into that. I just find that so interesting. And like there's something else I was going to say, but I don't remember, so thank you. Anyone out have any kind of final comments or want to wrap it up in the last 8 minutes? Covered a lot of topics today. Today was a special neurodivergent. Let's have 50 tabs open. And somehow we were able to follow each other's conversation, which is super awesome. I just want to recognize that.
Okay, I can't take it. I have to say, which town? Which town? Daydream all day long about which towns. And I know I've mentioned it before, but if anybody like is curious, look into Lilydale because they have been doing it for over 100 years and they've got it down to a science. So I spend a lot of time researching Lilydale.
That would be a fun field trip.
Oh, I will be there. I would love to visit. I would love to visit there.
I don't know why I didn't realize that was it's on the East Coast then. Lilydale. Yeah.
Yeah, it's in New York, and I mean it was one of the like spiritualist camps that they called them. Man, I can't remember because I mean I think they call it Lilydale, and there was another town nearby, but I can't remember what the name of it is. But and then there's the big one in Casadega, Florida, and there's a really good podcast about that one called Ghost Church. If anybody needs a podcast to check out, um, another big spiritualist camp. And but the thing about a lot of these camps is they're like they did not change with the times and they're really like aging out and they don't have any new members. Anyway, I could go on about that, but I'm gonna let Ezra.
I like that. You've mentioned Lilydale before, and I need to look into it because it's. I'll do some research about it. So, okay. So, I recently reread the novel that I wrote like 5 years ago, and so I'm gonna probably start doing readings of it because I was like, I kept on getting this idea that I needed to like edit it before I could share it. And so I reread it and it's like really good. So I'm probably gonna like film myself reading it out loud on YouTube or on TikTok. I mean, I probably will get a YouTube at some point, but I just wanted to put that out there. So I might end up like doing Zoom things and like we mentioned a book club or something like that. And I know we'll read other books, but that's something I think you guys would get a lot out of because it's actually about mermaids. So and the end of capitalism. And so it's very topical. So
Make sure you like copyright whatever words you need to say to make sure nobody steals your shit. That's all I have to say.
I'll like probably
That's who I am.
it or something, you know, like at some point. I don't really know how to do that, but I just have to look it up again.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
think you just have to like, even if you just say it, like this is blah blah blah, and you cannot reproduce this without consent or something. But
okay,
yeah,
cool.
yeah, we can. I don't know if anyone here knows anything about that, but it just pinged like, make sure they protect their work.
Just real quick,
Thank
I
you.
know you could take a copy of your manuscript and mail it to yourself so it has you know, like the timestamp date or whatever. And that
Mhm.
is like kind of like the cheap, easy way to like if it ever came down to proving that it was yours, because it'll, you know, it's got a date stamp on it. And then you can open it in court and go, here's my novel that they stole, you know. But yeah, I mean it is pretty sad because yeah, it's there is a lot of like intellectual theft out there. But yeah, that is one little tiny like cheat.
Totally.
Even like I don't, like even on the workbooks that Bright and Dark has, like on the last page, there's a little thing that you can just like Google and get, like that this is blah 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 for whatever protected, and you can't reproduce it without the consent of the Bright and Dark LLC or whatever it says. But you can look. It was just something that, it's like a very common legal statement. Beyond that, I don't know, but I'm sure somebody here does.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks everyone for coming. What a great like chat. It was fun. Have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your month. I think we have one more SASS Mass in June. Tomorrow is Monday, so the Bright and Dark has our business meetings on Monday. So I hope this will be the last meeting before the beta testers, which is the guild, to get into the app, because it doesn't need to app for the beta testers to get in there. We can still be doing stuff, while they're in there. I was saying just take a little more time, because it really is a one-stop shop for all of our needs for foundations, meaning it gives the reminders that we need. It has all of our stuff in there, and we're gonna, Jemry and Wit and Acacia have been filming stuff and be able to drip stuff, and it's gonna be pretty cool. So I think I don't want to promise, like we just talked about, like when we say it's gonna happen and then it doesn't happen. But I think is a really good shot of the guild getting in there, which is then closer to everybody getting in there. So potentially this week is the week. So yay, go team. All right, bye everyone. Have a great day. Thanks for coming.